Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. So OWCS is well underway in the North America, EMEA, and Asia regions. Upcoming this weekend, we're going to have the top 8 teams that are remaining in NA and EMEA compete in the main event. And I will have a video on that later on, kind of giving my predictions in terms of how I think that will go. But today I wanted to talk about something that I've been meaning to talk about here for about a week. Just haven't had the time to really sit down and get all of my thoughts together on it, but I figure the time is right, so let's discuss this topic finally, and that is the potential future that Collegiate Overwatch will have in the pro scene with the OWCS and the open circuit. And the real, of course, catalyst for this was the deal that was made between Luminosity and Maryville. Obviously, Maryville, well-known collegiate team. They've been very, very competitive for years in the Overwatch scene. They've been the best collegiate program for a while. They've attracted major, major players, obviously, like Dante and Luke Mino recently, and other names as well. Juby is believes on the team. King is on the team. Guys who've been in the Overwatch League and have now moved into a different point in their playing careers and professional lives and careers. And Luminosity comes in now and partners with Maryville. I think there's a lot of things about it and surrounding it that are very, very interesting. And so I wanted to look at a couple of tweets, more of a thread, I suppose, from Daniel Clerk, who is the director of Maryville Esports. And he had a very, very good set of tweets discussing the deal and kind of how the agreement makes sense for both Luminosity and Maryville. So I want to start by going through those, and then as we go on, we will, kind of give some of my own opinions as we go. But this first tweet from Daniel Clerk says, "I've been asked a lot how this benefits both parties, so here's a TLDR. College has full-time in-person, paid housing, food, staff subsidized. This offsets a lot of org cost and allows to have an in-person team, which is much easier to activate." He continues on to say, "Especially in OWCS, almost all teams will be online. For the university, this gives our players the ability to make some spending money and an easier inroads to pro. We can provide internships, hands-on learning opportunities for our non-competing students, and publicity. The name of the game in esports right now is building sustainable infrastructure. Gone are the days of $30K a month player salaries. I did the math last year for potential League of Legends partner, and we would have saved the team $650,000. If you're a T1 org, it is very possible to create a competitive team in a university setting. This also gives you an entire campus to activate to. There is nothing special about what we do. It can be easily replicated." So I thought this thread was very interesting to kind of look at, and it really gets into, in my opinion, a lot of the strengths of doing stuff like this and doing and creating a roster like this. I think one of the things that a lot of people are going to wonder is this notion of, well, if you're a team like now Luminosity and you need a player to compete, and say the tank meta changes and Dante kind of loses his kind of positioning in the meta. He's not going to be the top guy for the team. He just can't be their solo tank anymore. What if they need to get a new player and they don't have one, right? Well, they can still sign players from outside of this, outside the university, right? They just need to have the means to get a player. And they do have false, obviously, so they have another tank player. But that's kind of the idea, right? Is if they still have the means to bring players in, but that's maybe one player that they're signing that they have to worry about kind of subsidizing something like housing or something like that, or paying for that. They don't have to worry about all of it for the entire team, because the team is there with the university. They're already there. And I think the LG Maryville partnership is just one example I think it's the extreme example of if you're really, really good and you're a collegiate team, you can probably get a partnership with a major organization because you have housing that's being subsidized. If you're in esports, if your college actually cares about esports and puts money into esports, you can get that housing subsidies. Once again, you're all in person. You have a shared communal place. You get that ability to kind of have a community just built into your environment already because you're in a university and you're playing with other students and people who are going to kind of work with you and stick with you in that way. And I think one of the other points to make is, you think about esports, like esports careers are typically not super long. And they're usually from about when you're 18 to 21. Like that's usually when esports pros are kind of at their peak. Well, that's the perfect window of when you're in college, right? And so once you kind of graduate college, right, if you're still good enough, you can probably find another team and you can keep competing in esports. But also, if you were a pro while also being at college for 4 years, you got a college degree, and maybe to focus on esports, maybe you don't do 4 years. Maybe it's 5 years or something like that. But you also get the practical experience of being at a university, taking courses, being in classes, getting a degree, which then will help you even more because you can say, yeah, look, I was in college. I got, for 4 years, I got this degree. I was competing in esports at the same time. I was successful in esports. That's a skill that you can transfer. It's something you can say, yeah, not only was I an esports, pro, I was also managing to do an internship in this field that I took my degree was in, right? And I took internships in that field. And this is why being an esports pro kind of helps contribute to some of those skills that you need for X degree or for Y degree, right? Like there was managing schedules, there was a routine, there was a lot of group and teamwork, stuff like that. Like there's a lot of reasons why it can be good. There's a reason why athletics are a very good thing for people because there's literally specific reasons, that athletes get certain skills from being in a team, right? They work with other people. There's a lot of things that get involved in that. So esports, of course, are the same way, where you have skills that you develop by working with a team, by developing a routine and a regimen to keep yourself, in shape mentally or physically or whatever it kind of is. So I think there's a lot of really good reasons why, especially in an open ecosystem like OWCS, you should go through collegiate, right? And if you're a player who's good and is like competing at a high level, but you're not like going to be signed to an MAD or an organization right off the bat, I absolutely think collegiate should be your path, especially with the way that, it's gone are the days of $30,000 a month salaries. As Daniel said, like you're not going to get the money like you were getting in Overwatch League anymore. It's just not going to happen most likely. So the best thing you can do is look for ways to compete that are also kind of enabling you to have different options, different paths. And I think collegiate's a really good way. I went to college, right? Like I went to college 4 years, have a degree. I got involved a little bit with my college's esports kind of gaming scene. Less esports. I did a little bit of work with my college's esports program, but nothing major, nothing kind of important. But it was just fun and something I did just kind of because I was friends with people and I had connections with it. But I could see how much it mattered to people, and there are a lot of people like we want more investment into this from a college standpoint, and that they want more universities to invest more and do more. And I think it's a huge wake-up call now, especially for universities. Like, I think when you see how open the ecosystem is now, there's a lot of reason why investing in collegiate is a very good idea, and it helps you. Honestly, it helps the players a lot, and it helps the orgs because they don't have to spend as much money getting team houses and getting teams in places. It's really just like, we're going to give you some money, right? We're going to pay you X amount of money to compete for us. You win, you get prize money. You'll get that prize money no matter what, right? If you're good, you'll get the prize money whether you win or lose. Or whether you're with an org or not, you're going to get that prize money. And and we're going to help give you a little bit of extra money as well. But we don't have to worry about paying for housing for you, paying for food for you, paying for, getting you a practice space, because you have it all. Because the university that you're with, which universities, most of them have absurd amounts of money, especially in America. It's just the way the American collegiate system works. Lots of money in colleges and universities. So they probably can afford to, they're paying for subsidies for athletes and housing for athletes and all this other stuff. Like, this really is not, it really is a simple thing to kind of think about. So I really do think that this, to me, Maryville and Luminosity's relationship is the beginning of a trend that I think we will continue to see, because esports development in America has always kind of been a nightmare. You look around in stuff like League of Legends and Overwatch, it's the kind of thing where, like, it's there, it's present. I would say NA Overwatch has been growing quite a lot as of late. I think the scene is much better than it was when the Overwatch League got here and began, because obviously an influx of really, really, really good players from Korea coming and competing on NA ladder all the time and playing NA ranked Overwatch, and that helped to kind of in general, kind of improve some of the scene around you, because you ended up competing against some really, really good players. You had to learn how to compete against those players, and that helps you get better. But I think, one of the things about the U.S., and, there's a lot of discussions about America, America's economy and all that type of stuff. But I think the way that society in America views esports, I think your best bet is to just commit and say, hey, look, if I can get a scholarship to compete, basically let it pay for me to go to college. That's 4 years. If I can get 4 years out of that and I can get a degree, right? I competed. If I'm good enough and, talented enough as an esports player, I can probably move those skills into streaming, or I can compete, on a different team once I leave college, if I'm still at the top of my game. But it also kind of gives you a window of basically saying, like, look, I can do this for 4 years. I can compete in esports for 4 years. And after 4 years, if I'm done with it, I have a degree and I can go do something else, and I can find something else that interests me, and I can find something else that I enjoy more than being an esports competitor. Or, maybe you get to the end of the 4 years, you're like, my hunger's still there. But at the very least, I have something I can fall back on. I have that degree. I have something that I can use outside of esports as I go into my future, as I continue to grow, as I continue to kind of go throughout my life. Like, I have this period of time, but I also have, I didn't basically drop everything imaginable and go only with the intention and the possibility and thought process of I'm going to be a pro forever and this is going to sustain me for the rest of my life. I took the care and the time to give myself other options and other things. And you hear tons of pros talk about it now, right? Jake has talked about it. Dante talked about it before he went back. You look at KSF, he's a player who, after his esports career ended and he went into like a computer, like tech kind of job, because you're seeing it have actual meaningful impact to be able to go, yes, I was an esports pro, but I also turned that into other things that are going to help me long term. Because esports money, I don't think will ever last. It's not like the money you get from being a professional athlete in like a traditional sport like the NFL or the NBA. Like the money that you get in esports is just not that high, right? Like it's not, and especially the time you spend as a pro, you're so young in esports that for the most part, by the time you're 25, that your career's over, most likely. Maybe you get a little bit longer. And the money you had is probably mostly going to be gone. Like you don't make a lot of money. You make money, obviously, but you're probably going to be looking for a job or looking for something else later on. Now, once again, like if you can turn that into streaming or something like that, like yeah, that's big and that's huge, and that's a positive, but it's good to see that there is now way more options for players, especially with this open ecosystem, to be able to go to collegiate and be able to turn that into something else beyond just being an esports pro. I think that's a huge, huge benefit to the open ecosystem. So this is where I would kind of say, like, if you're a player who wants to compete in the OWCS and you want to kind of be good and you're 16, 17 years old, I think the thing you should look into is, let me see if I can find a college scene. Is there a college that has a good, maybe I can't get into a Maryville, and I can't get on their team, or like a Redbirds, but maybe I'm good enough that I can go and compete with, a different university, and we can create a team there. Maybe we have, maybe it's a local team, maybe it's you can get a lower tuition, or maybe you have a full ride to a school based on your performance in high school, whatever. And maybe you go and you find people there and you create a team there and you work and you grind. And maybe you go through this open circuit and you try to just compete and get up and get up and get up. And you just try to get into the top 16, right? In a tournament, right? That can be a very real way to get yourself in that system and get recognized and build an audience that you wouldn't be able to do otherwise. And so for me, that is the key to this scene. And that is the key to the future of Overwatch esports. Where I think now that we don't have really a tier 2 scene, it's all just one big scene. I think the best thing you can do is really just go collegiate and work that into the OWCS and use that as a jumping off point. Because I think orgs will continue to look at collegiate as a viable option if Luminosity and Maryville's kind of partnership is successful, right? There's a lot of room there. There's a lot of room for growth. There's a lot of potential, and I just think it's honestly a pretty good idea and something that I'm curious to see where it goes from here and how things go. So let me know your thoughts on this in the comments down below. I know I kind of rambled for a little bit, but I think it's a very interesting partnership, and I'm really interested to see, one, how Luminosity does as we get into the next, in the overall kind of NA scene, but then also to see if because there are some other collegiate like teams and players we've seen competing, like Left Right Good Night in EMEA is a collegiate team, though I don't know how they're going to be going forward. There are some other like collegiate teams as well, so like they are collegiate teams that have been competing. Like it is a viable path if you have the means to get a team together of people around you, right? Yes, you can have the limitations sometimes of who's there, but I think when you think about it in the sense of, as long as you can get players that are good, and you can kind of get universities to invest, which is really where the scene has to go next, is it's kind of in the ball's kind of in the court of universities to start investing into esports more. But if they can start doing that, and they start doing a better job at that, there's a very real possibility that the overall circuit and the overall kind of scene really does run heavily through collegiate. And that is really what I think is best for the esport in general, is really prioritizing, fostering collegiate level Overwatch to be translated directly to pro level Overwatch. So that's just kind of my thoughts. I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below, your thoughts on it. If you agree, if you disagree, if you think collegiate is good or bad, whatever it is, let me know down below. But that's going to be all for today. Thank you all once again for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want more like it in the future, consider liking and subscribing, as your content does help out a lot with the channel. That's going to be all. Hope you're all staying safe and staying healthy. And until next time, bye-bye.